Hey, 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 party people. It's Brandi and Cesley, and we're back with Blooming Through Faith, the podcast that helps you grow and bloom in your mindset, lifestyle, health, and wealth. We want you to know that you are capable, beautiful, and worthy. Okay, guys, we are going to talk about another kind of taboo subject, I would say, right, Cecily?
Mhm.
Something that's not talked about often. And the reason for that is we really want to help women in all aspects of our life. And with Cecily and I talking about this, we realize we've both gone through some similar situations and that a lot
Mhm.
of women have too. You just might not know it. All right. So join us as we dive into the complex mindset of body image and the profound impact it has on our well being. It's time to challenge the distorted perceptions society imposes upon us and embrace the beauty and strength within. Today, we will explore practical strategies and heartfelt insights to cultivate a deeper love and appreciation for our bodies. Okay.
Mhm.
So, the first thing we are going to talk about is healing generational wounds. Okay. And actually, Cecily, I want you to go over the first topic here with maybe how we were spoken to as children and what does it mean healing generational wounds?
Yeah. So maybe you've heard of generational wounds, maybe you haven't. I know that it's kind of like a hot topic now when people say like, "Oh, I have generational stuff. I'm healing generational stuff. I'm the first of a generation to do this." And I love that because so often we are products of our upbringing, right? Like we are the influence that our parents instilled on us. Or maybe it was friends and family, maybe it was not our parents, but grandparents, aunts and uncles, whoever it was. But I want you to, as a woman, think back to how you were talked about and how your body was talked about, even as a young child. I know that my daughter, who is now 5 years old, is constantly being told she's so pretty. She's so pretty. She's so cute. She's so this, she's so that. And while I love that, okay, that can also be really detrimental. And one thing we always want to make sure of is what have we internalized from the influence that we had growing up. I know especially like being a Southern little girl, it was all about, and my mom who listens to this and she'll probably think either this is hilarious or really awful. But when I was a kid, I was told, and this is kind of a Southern thing, good hair, skin, and nails is really important. It's how you land a man. And it's so crazy, right? But you internalize that. And growing up in the South as a young woman, as a Southern woman, as a cheerleader growing up, like how much of our body image as adult women is still fused by what we were told as a kid?
100%. And it's so funny because my mom is from Alabama. So same thing, Southern, right? And so my mom was 4'11", 90 pounds soaking wet. She was tiny. I did not get her genetics. Okay. So genetics are a funny thing.
Isn't
My
that
oldest brother,
crazy?
he can eat whatever he wants. He was so thin. My mom was the same way. My brother Danny and I, not so much. We got my father's genetics. So I was a thick girl. Okay. I was a little thicker my whole life, but I looked at my mom as being so
Mhm.
small as something that I needed to be too. And the way that, we're going to talk about how we're eating, how we're fueling our body, diets and fads and stuff like that too. But like my mom was constantly on a diet, right? She was constantly trying
Yeah.
to stay slim and small. And for me, I saw that growing up, and that's what I felt like I had to be thin, but it wasn't in my genetics. So we're going to talk about some things that happened to me to try to make sure that I stayed small like my mom or like my friends.
Yeah.
Let's for your
And
finger.
I will say, if you are a woman between like 30 and 45 listening, this is probably going to hit home a lot for you because we grew up in the generation of just diet culture. Everything was focused on women's bodies. I remember magazine covers with like Jessica Simpson and Britney Spears, and they could gain and lose 5 pounds, and it would
Mm.
be what's wrong with them, what's going on in their lives, and being larger immediately had a negative connotation. The goal was always to be skinny. If you were skinny, things were great. I mean, think about the advertisements when we were kids. I know we're going to get into it a little bit later, but like we grew up in this diet culture. Even our moms were sitting there drinking Slim Fast, doing aerobics videos. And
Yes.
very similar to Brandy, my mom was teeny tiny and she's still teeny tiny. And when people see my mom, they're like, "Oh my gosh, that's your mom. She's so tiny." And I'm like, "Yeah,
You're
I
pretty
didn't
tiny too, though,
I'm
Cecily. Stop.
yeah,
Like,
but it took a long time for me to learn that, like, that I wasn't gonna look like her and I was gonna look like me, and the
mm.
shape of my body wasn't necessarily the worth of my body.
100%. That is so good. The shape of your body is not the worth of your
Mhm.
body. So a lot of people get this growing up, and I'm sure you guys have. You're too tall, you're too heavy, you're too short, you're too thin, you're too this and that, especially in that Southern culture. So
Mhm.
we're definitely going to talk about that and about how we can heal generational wounds. Okay. So one thing we got to do to start healing these generational wounds is we need to acknowledge them. Like we're talking about
Mhm.
them right now. Were you spoken to a certain way when you were younger, right? So we need to acknowledge them and recognize them. This can involve exploring patterns of behavior, communication styles, or unresolved trauma, all right, that has been passed down through generations. Two, what you need to do is start seeking understanding, okay? So try to understand the context in which these wounds originated. This might involve researching your family history. Like we kind of already talked about that, right? Seeking therapy. This is something I talk to my therapist about uh, all
Yeah.
the time. Three, practice compassion. Okay, so this is a big one. Approach
Mhm.
yourself and your family members with compassion and empathy. Recognize that everyone is shaped by their experiences and that healing takes time. So when Cecily and I are here and we're talking about like
Mhm.
our moms and the slim fast and the diet culture, we're not upset with our moms. Like
Mm-mm.
we realize like they were just trying to do the best that they could. We also realize is they saw what they saw in magazines and on TV and through friends. Like they learned from their parents who learned from their
Mhm.
parents, right?
Well, because think about the culture too of like the 1950s and 60s. What they grew up in was very much a like ideological housewife sort of situation.
Mm-hmm.
It was you were supposed to look this way, and they had those silly workouts that women would do so they could stay tiny and cute, and and so they're a product of their upbringing too. So when we talk about breaking generational cycles, it is literally you have to recognize what women have been taught for so many years and say, okay, that's okay. Now
Yeah.
that I know better, I can do better.
Yeah. And that's the next thing is break the cycle, right? So commit to breaking harmful patterns and behaviors that have been passed down through generations. All right. So this might involve setting boundaries, seeking therapy, practicing forgiveness. So, like, if I had a daughter, obviously I would be the same as Cecily, right? Is making sure how do we speak to our daughter? What are we saying? What is she seeing? Right. Same thing with my boys.
Yeah.
They will always be like, my boys are big. I don't know how they're gonna grow up, but they were born big, right? But I'm
They're
not gonna be
corn-fed bread. That's what we call them in the South. They're corn-fed bread boys.
100%. But I would never make my boys feel less than because
Mhm.
they are bigger. But I always prayed for big boys, right? Okay. Next thing is connect with the community, right? So you can seek support from others, but that's why we're here. You can connect with us. You can connect with your friends. Like you can always
Mhm.
reach out to Cecily and I, or reach out to our Instagram handle and open up. Like we're not saying that you have to necessarily go to a therapist. I think therapy is great, but maybe it's not in the
We
cards
love
for you
therapy.
financially right now. We freaking love therapy. And see if your insurance covers it because some insurance does. But just know that we are here and that's what this community is about, right?
Mhm.
And then celebrate progress, okay? So healing generational wounds is a journey, it's not a destination. So celebrate your progress along the way, no matter how small it is, and be patient with yourself as you continue to heal, all right? And that was actually, this is not even this subject, but Mitch and I were talking about a
Mhm.
lot of generational wounds, and we were talking about finances. We were talking about different things of how we were raised yesterday and how we wanted to update those things for our sons. So little small
Yeah.
victories, right? So here's the deal, guys. And then we're going to jump into the next topic, but
The
healing
heavy stuff.
generational wounds is crucial for breaking cycles of dysfunction, okay? Fostering healthier relationships and promoting emotional well-being across family lines. So by addressing inherited traumas and patterns, individuals can create more positive legacy. Like we're talking about, you can create a
Mhm.
more positive legacy for future generations, all right? Ultimately, the process of healing generational wounds empowers individuals to reclaim the narratives, cultivating empathy and pave the way for a brighter and more compassionate future.
I love that. I love that so much. And before we even jump into the next topic, I know you said like, well, if I had a daughter, I'd talk to her this way. I think the way that we talk to our boys is just as important,
Yeah.
you know, because they're either going to grow up looking at women as a certain object. I hate to say it that
That's
way, but
good.
how does your spouse or the men in your life talk about your body, and or are they even talking about your body? Because unless it's like you're so beautiful, they really should not. They should not. They should not. But how are they addressing even the women that they see on TV? So, like, I
Mhm.
grew up and my dad, who is an amazing, incredible human, would notice beautiful women. And so, you, as a child, you notice that, right? Like, you notice what your parents see as the ideal body and the ideal beauty. Like, how can we be teaching not just our daughters, but also our sons to say, like, hey, we don't talk about women's bodies. We don't point these things out. This is beautiful, and so is this, and so is this. And
So
I think it's an
powerful.
important conversation for sure.
100%.
So,
That is so good, Cecily.
yeah, let's move on to the next thing that we're going to talk about. Now that we've kind of identified, you know, how we want to heal these generational wounds, we got to break down like how do we see our bodies right now, and what has caused us to get to this place where we kind of view our bodies as not good enough if they're not a certain weight or not, they don't look a certain way. So, one of the biggest things that I think women are not acknowledging, and maybe they don't even identify that they do this, but it is called disordered eating. And so, an eating disorder is not the same thing as disordered eating. You might say, well, I've never had an eating disorder. I have a great relationship with food, or I just diet, you know? If you are if you are treating food as anything other than fuel for your body or enjoyment, like it's okay to enjoy food, then you have an issue with it. So disordered eating is not an eating disorder, but it's very, very common. It's way more common than you think. And I think that more women have an issue with disordered eating than they think. So the clinical diagnosis of an eating disorder is very different than disordered eating. So an eating disorder is clinically recognized as a mental health condition that's characterized by disturbances in your eating behavior and related thoughts and emotions. So it typically requires a formal diagnosis from a healthcare professional, like a psychologist, like your therapist, like a psychiatrist, an actual just MD that you go to. But the severity can range. So eating disorders involve more severe and persistent disruptions in your eating patterns and your body image. So it's basically kind of a bigger version of disordered eating. It often kind of significantly impacts your physical health, your psychological health, and more often than not will require some more intensive treatment. So I want to make it very clear that I'm not comparing the two. Eating disorders are a very serious thing that we're going to talk more about here in just a little bit. But disordered eating, it can be just as disruptive to your body image. So disordered eating has more of a broader spectrum. It refers to more of a wide range of abnormal eating behaviors. So it really can just be as simple as like your attitude towards food, your attitude towards weight, your attitude towards body image. It's not something that's going to be diagnosed because it's so broad. It can look so different for everybody, but it's basically just an unhealthy pattern with food. It can be consistent, it can be varied. So, like, I could have disordered eating during the summer and maybe not the winter. You know, disordered eating can be anything from binge eating and then starving yourself the next day to there was a period of time in my life where, and I shared this with Brandi as we were talking about this episode because I thought it was kind of funny, but also looking back at it, I'm like, wait, that's actually really serious. In high school, all of my girlfriends and I were on what we called the Special K diet. And basically, the Special K diet is where there were all these advertisements where if you switched one meal a day out with Special K, you were supposed to lose a pant size. So we all brought little baggies of Special K cereal to school, and that's all we ate during the school day. That is disordered eating. Not okay, my friends. And you're also putting the value of food on how much you weigh, which is absolutely insane when you think about it. Do you have anything else to add on that, Brandi?
Yeah, I love that, and just understanding the difference between the two. So I'll be vulnerable with you guys, and I'm going to share something that I've personally never shared before, and kind of how serious it was for me personally. And of course, it started with how I perceived myself and how I grew up in those generational wounds and, friends and family. So, I suffered from an eating disorder, and, it took me a really long time to get over it. And even till this day, there are some things that trigger me. Okay. So it started when I was 17 years old. But in high school, I played a lot of sports and I started going to the gym and I started running. And running was kind of like my outlet, right? So I thought I was eating healthy. I thought I was being healthy because I was exercising so much, but I was overtraining and I was under eating. And this became an eating disorder and I lost a lot of weight. A lot of friends in high school, and it's funny if any high school friends are listening to this now, it was kind of drastic how much I lost. And they're like, oh, she must be doing cocaine. How did she lose that much weight that fast, right? That was my going into my junior year.
It must be cocaine.
Remember I used that in a reference before, and that was why, Cecily, because that's how I was attacked. But it was just under eating and overtraining. So I would eat an apple because I thought apples were healthy, right? And if you don't know, you don't know. I was a high schooler. I was not educated on nutrition yet, right? And then from there, I might have a smoothie at lunch, and then I would have like a chicken and vegetable at dinner, and that's it. And mind you, I would run 6 miles, or I would play tennis. I'd play offense. No, I'd play tennis. I would play singles and doubles, and then I would play flag football. I'd play offense and defense. So literally I was overtraining for 4 to 6 hours, and then I was barely eating anything. And we're actually going to talk about overtraining in like the next one. So that's how my eating disorder started. And then it just got progressively worse and different. So then I got certified as a trainer in nutrition at 18. So I realized, oh my gosh, I am under eating. I'm not eating enough. So from there, I started eating more. And guess what happens when you eat more after under eating? You gain weight. Period. So then I gained weight. I was very unhappy with my body. I started lifting heavy. And so my body changed. And your body does change, right? Your body is never going to stay the same. The older we get, babies, lifting, all kinds of different stuff, right? So anyway, from there, I gained weight, but I was doing better, right? I was eating more. I was exercising good. But then that's when I started throwing up. That's when I started throwing up after I ate things that I shouldn't eat. That's when I started using diuretics, like going to the it was really bad, you guys. It was a really bad place. And then, I went back and forth. There would be times where I had no issues. Like I was eating good. I was fine with my body. And then, I felt like I healed while I was in Pennsylvania kind of. And then I got into that abusive relationship. And so once my ex was literally abusing me, in my mind, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I am not pretty enough. Oh my gosh, I am not good enough. He is hurting me because I'm not pretty enough. And that triggered me throwing up again. All right. So then it came back. This is something I've never talked about. So here's my first time I'm kind of like diarrheaing up the mouth, but started with under eating, overtraining. Then, I went back and forth. And I can say I've been really good for the past 10 years. When you're in a healthy, happy relationship with a man who loves you for you, and you do grow and educate yourself, which I have. And I think this is really important because I'm able as a health coach to really talk to women about deeper rooted problems when it comes to eating, right? So like Cecily said, you might not have had an eating disorder, but a lot of women do suffer with what Cecily was talking about, like disordered eating, right? And so that's why we're coming in here and we're being real and we're being raw. For me, I was so ashamed because, again, I'm a fitness trainer and nutrition coach. So I'm educated on how to fuel your body and help others. But for so long, I didn't love myself and I didn't know how to break that cycle. Right. And so that's why talking about this subject is so near and dear to our hearts, because we've struggled and we know a lot of women struggle as well.
And I think thank you, first of all, for sharing that, because I think it's like, that's a big deal. It's a huge deal because I think there's so many women that have probably gone through this. And because maybe they only had an eating disorder for a short period of their life, they think, oh, I've healed. Or maybe they don't even use that terminology. Maybe they just think like, oh, I just did that when I was younger. I'm okay now. But the long-term psychological effects of that is that you do struggle with a relationship with food, I think forever probably. And you can correct, I mean, you have the experience, so you can correct me if I'm wrong. And I think that while there's many differences between an eating disorder and disordered eating, I think the end result becomes when I had disordered eating patterns, I thought, well, I don't have an eating disorder. I'm good. Like, this is just dieting. No, when you go out to a restaurant or you start to go grocery shopping and you balance and weigh every meal that you're going to eat and think about, well, I'm not going to eat this because this is fattening or this is this or this is that. That's not, if you're comparing everything that you eat and drink with, is this going to make me gain weight? Then there's a problem, and it can be a destructive pattern because it's not something we would teach our children, right? But it's something that we're showing them. As women, we're showing them that we might go out to a family function and not eat a piece of cake. And I think there's a difference between trying to eat healthy and being very restrictive. And our kids pick up on that.
Yeah.
And our friends pick up on that. And I think that it's okay to say, like, God created the most incredible, amazing, nutritious food for us to eat. And I think Brandi and I both, as nutrition-minded people and as health coaches and as trainers who have gone through tons of nutrition courses, we've gotten kind of the great ability to see food for its value.
Yes.
And the only value that food has is not whether or not it's going to make you skinny or fat. And we have to stop thinking that way, because there's so much that you're missing, and there's probably a lot of health benefits that you're missing in foods that are actually really nutritious for you, but maybe they don't have a value on the weight scale.
Yeah.
You know?
Say it louder for the people in the back. So here's the biggest
There was
thing.
a time.
I was going to say,
There was
go
ahead. You go.
say that everything we put in our body for a reason, has a purpose, right? Like Cesley said, we're fueling our body. And I like cringe when I hear women say, well, I'm just gonna not eat carbs. No. You need carbs for energy, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, there are some carbs that don't serve a purpose. Maybe, white flour and pastas and stuff like that, right? That turns to sugar, which turns to fat. But other carbs are important. And we're not going to get into all of that now. We can maybe have an episode just about nutrition. Or if a woman's like, oh, well, I'm eating 1,200 calories. Well, everybody's body's different. Your macro needs are different depending on your height, your age, your weight, right? So most of the time, 1,200 calories is not enough. Again, you're under eating. And when you are constantly dieting or under eating or going from this fat to this fat to this fat, what it does is it hurts your body. And I know that because, again, I was an under eater, and then I did a fitness competition. So like I felt like I was healed from all of this. And then I put my ass in a fitness competition where I was weighing everything. And then you do look at food as good and bad. And then, afterwards I didn't reverse diet like I was supposed to. My coach didn't talk to me about that. It just messes up your metabolism.
Yeah. It's so funny that you just mentioned that, because a year ago I started working with a coach, because sometimes as a coach you need a coach. And I started working with a coach who is a phenomenal coach. Like, she's a good friend of mine. I trust her implicitly. She looks great. She's got a ton of muscle. Like, she's never someone who has said that food is bad.
Right.
But she had me, because a big deal for me is having dinner with my family every night. That's it doesn't matter what we're doing. We're going to sit together and have dinner every night together as a family. And so I told her, I said, I will follow these macros while we're doing all these training and these workouts, but I want to make sure that we can still have dinner as a family. So instead of giving me a meal plan, she said, well, I want you to weigh your plate at dinner. You can have this many ounces of whatever it is you're eating. I don't even care. And for me, I did it for about a week, and I realized I was already starting to redevelop such bad habits from it. Like, it was so triggering for me that I had to call her and say, hey, I love you. I don't think I can train with you, because I'm starting to think about this all day long. All I'm thinking about is what I'm supposed to be eating. Have I trained enough today? It's all consuming, and I'm not enjoying my life right now. So clearly I have some issues that are unresolved that I need to work on. And I really took a step back and said, okay, I have to heal this body image, because for me, it was really bad. And I'm sure there's a lot of women that relate to that.
For sure. And I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I get triggered when I have to count every single thing because, again, I did that fitness competition, right? So for me, I'm all about portions. I'm fueling my body right. I'm eating the right portions. I'm eating enough throughout the day. But if I go to like having to track and put it in my fitness pal, it becomes overwhelming. I'm always thinking about it, and I don't want that to be the case. And that's, again, why Cesley and I say, like, and the cheat meal thing. Oh my gosh, I don't love the cheat meal thing because it's saying that food is bad.
Who are you cheating on? What are you cheating on?
It's like, I ate good, but I'm going to give myself one cheat meal a day. And you're programming your body to, ice cream is bad. Cheeseburgers are bad. French fries are bad.
Yeah.
And then you're like thinking about it all the time, right? And then when you deprive yourself, okay, sorry, something we're definitely passionate about this, but when you deprive yourself of food, you're going to constantly be thinking about it. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to eat carbs. I'm not going to eat chocolate. I'm not going to eat sugar. Well, that's not going to happen because eventually you're going to do it. And then guess what you do? You binge. Then you
And your kids
overeat.
learn the pattern.
And
They learn the
learn.
pattern. If you go out to ice cream with your kids and they want, mommy, try this. And you're like, no, I can't eat that. I can't eat this. How do you think their body image is going to be growing up?
Yeah. So live by the 70-30 rule, 80-20 rule, like live your life, but fuel your body. Right. And again, we're not going to get too deep in this, but if you have any questions about nutrition, obviously you can reach out to us and we'll help you. All right, let's move to the next one, which is overtraining. Okay. And a lot of people do overtrain. Overtraining occurs when you push your body beyond its ability to recover from exercise stress, okay? While exercise is essential for health, fitness, and performance improvement, overdoing it can have a detrimental effect on your body for really a lot of reasons, okay? So I'm going to cover a few of those reasons real quickly, right? So muscle and tissue damage, and I can say this right now when I'm talking about overtraining. I was actually working out this morning. We were lifting. My body is broken, y'all. Okay. Scoliosis, sciatica, slip disc, no cartilage in my knees. I have like a rotator cuff injury. Like it's crazy, Cecily.
It's just a little messed up. It's fine.
Yeah. And that was because as a child, like I just told you guys, I played tennis for hours. I played flag football for hours. I would run 10 miles a day, like literally 3 to 4 days a week. I overtrained and now my body is paying for it. So that is why we're telling you guys about this. Like even now as an adult, you want to be mindful and make sure that you're taking care of your body. We only have this one body. We want to make sure that we're taking care of it. Okay. Also, if you are training for something, it can decrease your performance. Instead of improving it, overtraining can lead to a plateau or even decline in your performance. Overtraining can lead to hormonal imbalances and immunity issues. Okay. So look at that. Like stress hormone, your cortisol levels, your testosterone, like all of these things can be affected negatively when you're overtraining. Mental and emotional effects. Overtraining can take a toll on your mental and emotional well-being. Constantly being fatigued, having mood swings, decreased motivation. Those are symptoms of overtraining. And decreased rest and recovery. Okay, so rest and recovery is so important, guys. And if you follow me, you know that I love movement. Cecily loves movement. But when we say we move daily, it doesn't mean that we run every single day. It means we do yoga. It means we do mobility. It means we stretch. It means we walk, right? So we're getting daily movement in for our mental health, but we're not overtraining, all right? Is there anything that you want to add about overtraining before I land this plane and then you go to the next one?
Yes. And this is a hot topic for me because we're trainers. So we see people overtrain all the time. I see people that they're doing 2-a-day workouts and I'm like, that actually did not help you.
It harms you more.
That's just stop it. Stop. But I will say, if you are someone who is looking at your calorie burn, if you have an Apple Watch, I think they're the greatest and worst invention of all time. I think they have a lot of really amazing technological things that can help people. My grandfather, actually, it saved his life because it detected a heart arrhythmia and they got him to the hospital because he had an irregular heartbeat. So things like that are really, really cool. However, if you are looking at your watch for your calorie burn and you won't stop a workout until you hit a certain number, or you're looking at, well, I ate this many calories, so I need to burn this many calories in this workout, and that's where your mind is going, listen, this could be a disordered mindset when it comes to training and nutrition and all of that. You have to be very careful about that and retrain your brain on what the purpose is of physical fitness. Like for us, we're women in our 30s. The purpose of physical fitness is so that we can move our bodies when we're 90 years old, right? Yep. Just like Brandi said, you have one body. You have to be able to move it. I just went and got labs done at the hospital, just like regular checkup labs. And I looked around at the hospital and I was almost a little hesitant to share this because I was like, I'm going to probably get a lot of flack from this about people and when they're talking about bodies and all these different things. But I looked around and every single person in the lobby either required the use of a walker. And these are people between the ages of 40 and 80.
Oh,
All right.
wow.
They had oxygen tanks. They required the use of a walker, or they were in wheelchairs. They had body issues. They couldn't walk. They were having trouble breathing. These were all health related issues that were preventable. And I know this just because it was a doctor where I was just going to get regular checkups. Like, this isn't something that was cancer or things that are not preventable, but this was stuff that people just didn't take care of themselves. So when we're talking about fitness and movement, you have to retrain the purpose of physical fitness. Fitness is meant to help you move for the rest of your life, not to fit into a certain size of pants.
100%. And it's not about how you look in a bikini or the number on the scale. Okay. First and foremost, think about your why. Why are you on this earth? Who is most important to you? Most of you guys will say, well, my kids, my grandkids.
Right.
Well, you want to move and take care of your body so that you can still play with your grandkids, right? So that you can see them or your kids graduate, right? That's what's most important, is being able to move and not be in a wheelchair so young. Because when you said that 40 to 80, that is still so stinking young, right? It's also about
crazy
mindset. And I work out so that I don't, hurt anybody. It's true. It's a true thing. Like, it calms me down more so than, what I look like,
Yeah.
Okay. So we're almost there. So to avoid overtraining, it's essential to listen to your body, prioritize rest and recovery. All right. Vary your workouts like we talked about, and gradually increase intensity and volume over time. All right. Also, pay attention if something doesn't feel right. Make sure you're not injuring yourself. Pay attention to signs of fatigue, pain, and decreased performance, and don't hesitate to adjust your training and plan accordingly. Guys, ladies, like, when you're on your period, your hormones, like, that plays a big role in your fatigue and how you show up and how you can exercise. Balancing exercise with proper rest and recovery is key to achieving long-term health and fitness goals.
On what you just said, one of the best things that you can do for yourself as a woman is learn how the cycle, your monthly cycle, operates. I know this is a little bit of like a niche topic now, but so much changed for me when I started to recognize the signs of my body and the area and the time of the month that I was in my cycle, and adjusting my movement, my eating, my drinking around that. So like, your body goes through an entire month of a hormonal cycle when you can be aware of what your body is doing and do things that are kind to your body. It's going to make all the difference in the world. Don't push it just because that's the status quo and that's what you've been taught your whole life. So if any of these things feel triggering for you, or you're listening to it going, oh, I do that. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Okay. And you identify with it, we're going to chat a little bit about how we can heal these generational wounds, how we can heal these negative body images. Some of them are going to feel really big for you. I'm just going to let you know right now. Some of these are going to be like, okay. Number one, ditch the scale. Ditch out, and on the same vein, ditch the Apple Watch. Okay. If you're having a hard time or a bad body day, don't step on a scale. I'm not saying that you can't ever weigh yourself. I'm saying for now.
Oh my gosh. But let me just say this, because this is one of my biggest pet peeves as a health professional, is when you weigh yourself every single day. Don't weigh yourself. Like, first off, ditch it. But if you're going to weigh yourself, if you want to weigh yourself once a week, same time. So Friday morning, as soon as you wake up, that is your true weight. So your weight is going to vary every single day depending on how much sleep you got, your hormones, like we talked about, your period, water intake, sodium intake, like all of these things adjust that scale. So if you step on it every single morning, that's not your true weight. So if you have to weigh yourself, please only do it once a week, as soon as you wake up, like Friday morning, same time.
Yeah. And again, these are only tips if you struggle with overtraining, disordered eating, eating disorders. Like, if you're somebody who has a healthy body image and you're working out every day and you want to weigh yourself, go, girl. Just like I was talking about my friend who trains and she has a coaching program and she has her clients weigh every day. I'm like, oh, that's so triggering for me. Thank you, friend. I have to stop. So bad. But I'll even say on what Brandi just said, when you do weigh yourself every week, write it down and track it around that same time every month. Because, for example, last week I was ovulating. I weighed 3 pounds more than I weighed this morning. I didn't do anything different in my life. I just and you know what? When I'm on my period, I'm going to weigh 3 pounds more. And that could make me feel really bad about myself if that was what I
I
was
weigh
thinking
like
about.
9 pounds more. 9
Oh,
pounds
that's
more. It's
yeah,
horrible.
it's
My
all just water retention. It's crazy.
Mhm.
So you have to look at it at the same time every month too, so that you can compare it with your hormonal cycle from the last month. Makes sense. Um, Seek professional help. So I cannot stress this enough, is there is nothing wrong with you, but it is so important to identify the patterns that you've been taught your whole life and how you can heal it. And we can't do it on our own because our mind will trick us, right? Our feelings will trick us. Our minds will trick us. You have to make sure you talk to a nutritionist who specializes in body image issues and knows your issues. So I'm a nutrition coach, I'm a certified nutritionist. I ask my clients, hey, how do we feel about scales? How do we feel about talking about weight? How does this look to you? Because I don't ever want to be something that's triggering for a client. So having professional support can provide valuable guidance and personalized strategies to help you with your healing. All right. The next one is going to be practice self-compassion. Y'all, we work out, we eat food, we live life because we love ourselves.
Yeah.
God has knit us in our mother's womb so perfectly. He knew us before we knew ourselves. He has created your body for purpose. Your hands do good work. Your feet move you forward every day. Your ears listen for kindness. Like, there's so many things to love about your body. You have to cultivate a mindset of kindness and understanding towards yourself. So really, you got to challenge the negative self-talk. If you eat something and you find yourself thinking about it and punishing yourself all day long, replace it with those positive and affirming, nurturing thoughts. All right. The next one is going to be build a support network. You guys, it is so important to surround yourself with understanding and non-judgmental individuals who can offer encouragement and validate how you feel about this. So it's going to be important to talk to friends about this. Like, if you're out at a restaurant with some girlfriends and you're like, oh, I don't really want to order this, but I'm struggling with this issue right now. Talk to them so that they can help validate you. And if you don't have friends that you feel like you can talk to, there are a ton of support groups. There's online communities. There's Brandi and I. If you're like, I have nobody to talk to, girl, you need to just message us. We are so happy to. We will just challenge those thoughts. We will support you all the way.
Mhm.
All right. The next one is challenge your distorted beliefs. So recognize them is the first step. Recognize the beliefs that you have about your body, about food, about dieting, about what you think you need to do to be a certain weight or pant size or to be healthy. Challenge what you see as healthy. And start challenging those societal pressures. Like, think about, why do I feel this way about my body? What am I looking at? What am I watching? Who am I trying to attain to be? Like, who am I looking at and thinking, man, I wish I was like that? Challenge that. All right. Our next one is going to be engage in mindful practices. So, y'all, we've talked about these before, but meditation, breathing techniques, cultivating the awareness of your body and your emotions and how they're connected. Your body does so many good things for you. Being mindful of what your body's doing for you can help you develop a healthier relationship. I'll tell you one thing that changed a lot for me was when I started, y'all know I come from everything from prayer. And so for me, I started praying over my body when I started to feel myself. And I do it like we all do it. I've been my period and my pants don't fit right. And I'm like, oh, well, you're really sucking it up. Like, just, we all do it. But the second I start to feel that coming on, the mindful practice of prayer comes in and I go, okay, I need to go for a walk. And I thank my body. I thank God for my feet. I thank God for, it sounds so weird, but I thank God for my hands. I thank God for my belly, as weird as that sounds, because yeah, it's a little squishy, but my daughter thinks it's fun and awesome to lay on. And I literally birthed 3 children from this belly. So the fact that it has grown and stretched and reduced 3 times, I'm like, that is incredible. All right. So mindfulness will help you develop a healthier relationship with food, exercise, and self-image. The last 2, I'm getting there. Prioritize self-care. Take time for self-care activities. Do things that make your body feel good, because then you're going to recognize fitness as something that should make you feel good, that should release endorphins, and not something that you're doing to punish your body. Spend time outside, rest your body when it feels like it needs rest, and nourish your body with balanced nutrition. And then the last suggestion we have for you, if you're triggered by any of these things, or if you're working through a negative body image, is to set boundaries. You guys, you have to Unfollow the fitness influencers. The 20-year-old who has had no kids and eats 1,000 calories a day so that she can look skinny on Instagram and get paid to do it is not the same as you. Her day is not the same as your day. And sure, she might look great and we're not going to judge her because we don't judge women around here. Okay. You do you. However, that does not have to be you. You have to establish boundaries with your social media, with your fitness routines. If you write out your week of workouts and it looks really heavy and you're like, I don't know if that's going to be possible, scale it back.
Yeah.
Reduce the triggers in your life that fuel that negative body image and the disordered behaviors. Start getting rid of habits that will make you eat unhealthy. So if you start to notice that when you're around a certain type of people or when you're around certain environments, you start to pick up those disordered eating patterns, get away from it. Set those boundaries so that you can uplift and support your healing journey.
All right, Grow Girls, remember that healing is a gradual process and it's okay to seek help and support along the way. You are not alone, and with patience, perseverance, and self-compassion, you can find peace and acceptance within yourself. And remember, you're worthy, you're capable, you're beautiful, and we can't wait to watch you grow, girl.